Hey boys and girls, it's been a while since I've done my last video, and I think this is a really important one. We're talking about partial products multiplication, and it's one of the many strategies that we're going to be using for multiplication, and it's going to be one that is a stepping stone, a bridge to our traditional or more traditional methods of multiplication that are going to be more efficient. But this is a strategy that you should become familiar with if you're not already, and you should become good at it so that you can be good at the other strategies too. If you know the other strategies, that's fine. But this one is going to be important for you to show your understanding of multiplication and really make sense of the numbers. So let's get started with it. We're going to go right into a whiteboard, and I'm going to put up a couple questions on the board. We're going to talk about how to solve some single digit by multi-digit problems, and then also some double digit by double digit. Okay, so we have, excuse me, let's say we do 4, try that again. I guess not. There we go. So let's try 4 times 368. Okay, so the other day we were working on partition rectangles. And when we talked about partition rectangles, we wanted to break apart the multi-digit problem or multi-digit number into easier numbers to kind of work with along a rectangle. And so for this particular case, we had the 4, and then we made a rectangle. And this new whiteboard tool is maybe not going to cooperate with me. And then we had 3 different numbers. We have 300, we have 60, and we have 8, right? So if we broke apart 368 into the place values, then we could say, all right, 4 times 300, 4 times 60, and 4 times 8, right? Now, you may notice that 360 look like the same size boxes. It really doesn't matter the size of the boxes, but it's more about giving them sort of their own place. So we have 300 times 4. We have 60 times 4. And we have 8 times 4. Okay. And the goal is to solve each one of these, and then the last step is add it up. And that's essentially what we're doing in partial products as well. And we're going to go through that. So if I have partial products, if I'm working on that method, I'm going to draw out the problem very similarly to traditional multiplication. I'm going to draw it like this, right? And I'm going to add in sort of an extra line going down the side. And this extra line really is important because it helps us keep our values kind of lined up and in the right place. So we're going to multiply the different numbers that we just did here with our partition rectangle. They also call this an array, sort of an array method. We're putting this into kind of different boxes that 4 by 300, 4 by 60, 4 by 8. And they're all sort of like their own little rectangles. Now, they're not to scale, and this 8 by 4 rectangle should be way smaller than the 60 by 4 and the 300 by 4. But as I said before, it's just kind of placeholders. So let's do the first one, 300 times 4. And if we know our basic fact of 3 times 4, then we're going to know our extended fact of 300 times 4. And that is 1,200. And the next one, 60 times 4, if you know 6 times 4, and then you're going to know 60 times 4, right? So 60 times 4 is 240. And notice how I'm trying to keep those numbers all in line. We want to make sure that the numbers are all lined up. And grid paper is actually really useful for that. Okay, so we're certainly going to be using grid paper as much as we can, or just making sure our numbers stay lined up. Now, the last one is 8 times 4. And 8 times 4 is 32. So after we do all of our individual multiplication problems, we call these partial products. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. And we're breaking this bigger problem up into smaller parts, partial products. Okay, so the next step is that we're going to add up each of these partial products. So we have zeros plus 2, 4 plus 3, 2 plus 2 is 4, and then we have a 1, right? So our answer is 1,472. So let's try another one. I'd like you to try to solve it all on your own, okay? So after I write out the problem, let's pause and try to work it out. Make one of these rectangles, make one of these little rectangles here, partial or a partitioned rectangle, right? And kind of break up each part into its own little sort of rectangle. So I did 300 times 4, 60 times 4, and 8 times 4. And then I'd like you to put it together into this format, the partial products method. All right, so I'm going to clear this now. And if you want to go back and watch how I did it again, totally do that. But try to solve it before you go any further on the video. Okay, so let's come up with a new problem. And this time I'm going to write it in a different color. Let's go with red. So let's do 753 times 7. All right. So pause the video now. And when you're ready, after you try to figure out your answer, take a look at the rest of this part to see how we do it. Okay? All right. Go ahead and pause. Okay. So I hope you figured this out. I'm going to be figuring it out right now. So let's see. We have a rectangle that is going to have 7 on one side, and then it's going to be 3 parts. And I'm doing my best to draw straight lines, not switching over to the line tool. And the first part is going to be 700. The next part is going to be 50. And the last part is going to be 3. And notice how the boxes are not necessarily to scale, right? They're just placeholders. So we have our first problem is 700 times 7. The next one is 50 times 7. And the last one, 3 times 7. Notice how all of them are times 7 because that is one of the factors in this problem. And the other one is 753, just broken up into its place values. Okay, so let's draw now the problem in the partial products format, right? It looks just like traditional, except we're going to make this line going down the side, and we're going to write out each one of the products separately. Okay, so first one, 700 times 7. Next one is 50 times 7. And the last one is 3 times 7. And then we're going to draw a line there. So what's 7 times 7? And I probably wanted to maybe hide that if I can. Oops, no, 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 no. I don't know if I have an undo button on this new. Oh, I guess not. We'll just roll with it. Let's say, oh, wow. Anyway, let's just remove that and rewrite it. Right? Okay, 700 times 7. Okay, so we have 7 times 7 is 49, and we extended it with 2 zeros, right? So 4,900 or 4,900, right? Now, 50 times 7, 5 times 7 is 35, so we have 350. And then 3 times 7 is 21. Okay, so 0 plus 0 plus 1 is 1. 5 plus 2 is 7. 9 plus 3 is 12. And we can carry the 1 up here, or I like to just kind of put it right down there. And then 4 plus 1 is 5. And our answer is 5,271. All right. Now, one more round. I'm going to show you, and this isn't going to be a focus too much on the first lesson of partial products, but I do want to give you the exposure of what it looks like if we're going to do a double digit by double digit problem with partial products. Okay, so that's going to be the last step of this video. All right, so there it is. All right, so let's imagine we have a problem like 48 times 63. That sounds good. So both of these are multi-digit problems. So we're going to split up both of these factors into their place values. So we're going to make a rectangle that looks actually more like a square. Okay. And oh boy, that is no good. I'm glad it got erased all on its own. There we go. Okay, so I'm making a grid that looks a little bit like this, right? And we are going to do 48 on this side. So we're going to do 40 and 8. And on this side, we're going to do 60 and 3. All right. And so we're going to have 4 different boxes for 4 different partial products of this problem. So we're going to have 60 times 40. We're going to have 3 times 40. And then we're also going to have 8 times 60. and 8 times 3. So in the partial products method for this, again, it looks like the traditional method, 48 times 63. And we are going to put in the line going down and try to draw it as straight as we can. And we are going to then use each one of these partial product problems. We're going to do 40 times 60, or 60 times 40. We're going to do 3 times 40. We're going to do 8 times 60. And we're going to do 8 times 3. So we have our 4 different problems. Okay, so 60 times 40 has 2 zeros that we're extending. It's 2,400. We have 3 times 40, which is 12 with 1 0, or 120, right? We have 8 times 60, which is 48 with 1 0, which is 480. And then we have 8 times 3, which is 24. And then we just add up those 4 different partial products. Okay, so we're going to have 4. We're going to have 2 plus 2, which is 4, plus 8, which is 12. Carry that 1. We have 1 plus 4, which is 5. 1 plus 4, which is 5. That makes 10. And then we have 3,024. So we're going to be doing this method a lot in the next week or so. It's not going to be the last method that we use, and it's not going to be the end goal either. I know that often, many times, people are like, I already know the traditional method. I don't need to do this. And that's wrong. That's not correct. We should all learn this method because it shows that we can connect to the idea of multiplication and how we can manipulate these numbers and use them in a different way, and how we can see the values of each of these digits in the problem. Traditional method, sometimes people aren't recognizing those values. And that's a really important part of multiplication, being comfortable doing it. So with that being said, this is going to be a method that we phase out. We are going to be eventually moving into traditional methods because they are more efficient, especially when we get into bigger problems. But this is a really good method to get comfortable with before we move to that next one too. All right. I hope you're doing well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great day.